Tonight, we will tell you a story of ancient Babylon, a city whispered about across millennia, a place of towering ziggurats and revolutionary laws, a place that held customs so unique they have baffled and intrigued historians for centuries. You will learn about a remarkable social practice observed in the heart of this ancient metropolis, a practice that, to modern eyes, might seem strange. In its time, however, it was regarded as a sacred duty, essential for the well-being of the entire community. We will explore its true purpose, its profound connection to the revered goddess Ishtar, and how it was interpreted by a curious Greek traveler named Herodotus. You will discover why this ancient tradition was a profound act of devotion, entirely separate from any notion of commerce, and why its surprising conclusion reshapes our understanding of one of history's greatest civilizations. Oh, and if you enjoy these stories, remember to subscribe to the channel and leave a comment with topics you would like to hear next. New sleep stories are released here every day. All right, find a comfortable spot, settle in, and let us journey now to the heart of Mesopotamia, to a time when the very foundations of civilization were being laid. Our story begins in the vast, fertile crescent of Mesopotamia, where, more than 4,000 years ago, the city of Babylon began to rise along the mighty Euphrates River. It was not merely a cluster of dwellings. It was a burgeoning center of human ingenuity and aspiration, a place destined to become one of the most powerful and influential cities of the ancient world. Babylon, whose name itself evokes images of grandeur and mystery, means Gate of God in Akkadian, reflecting its deep spiritual significance to its inhabitants. By the time of its greatest glory, under rulers like Hammurabi and Nebuchadnezzar II, Babylon was a marvel of urban planning and engineering. Its famous walls, said to be so wide that chariots could race upon them, protected a sprawling city of bustling markets, intricate canals, towering temples, and the magnificent ziggurat of Marduk, a structure believed to touch the heavens. This was a society built on sophisticated laws, codified by Hammurabi, ensuring order and justice, and a vibrant culture that pioneered advancements in astronomy, mathematics, and writing. Life in Babylon was deeply intertwined with the rhythms of the Euphrates, whose annual floods brought fertile silt to the land, allowing for abundant harvests. This agricultural prosperity formed the bedrock of their civilization, but it was their unique worldview, their understanding of the divine, that shaped their most intriguing customs. Tonight, we embark on a journey that transcends time, reaching back more than 4 millennia to the dawn of human civilization itself. Imagine a vast, fertile plain, cradled between two mighty rivers, the Tigris and the Euphrates, their waters bringing life to an otherwise arid landscape. This region, known to history as Mesopotamia, the land between the rivers, was the very crucible where the first cities rose from the earth, where writing was invented, where laws were codified, and where the intricate tapestry of organized human society began to unfurl. It was here, amidst the reeds and the rich alluvial soil, that humanity first dared to dream of permanence, of community beyond the nomadic tribe, building monumental structures and forging complex systems of governance. From humble beginnings, small agricultural villages blossomed into bustling urban centers like Uruk and Ur, each a powerful testament to human ingenuity. But among these early giants, one city eventually ascended to unparalleled prominence, its name becoming synonymous with power, wisdom, and an almost mythical grandeur. Babylon. Situated strategically on the banks of the Euphrates, Babylon was destined to become a crossroads of trade, a melting pot of cultures, and the political and spiritual heart of successive empires. Its rise was not swift, but rather a patient accumulation of influence, punctuated by periods of breathtaking dominance under visionary rulers. It was during the Old Babylonian period, around the 18th century BCE, that the city truly cemented its legacy under the reign of King Hammurabi. His name, you might recall, is inextricably linked to one of humanity's most significant achievements, the Code of Hammurabi. This remarkable collection of laws, meticulously carved onto a towering basalt stele, was more than just a list of rules. It was a revolutionary declaration of justice, a comprehensive framework designed to govern every facet of Babylonian life. From intricate regulations concerning trade and agriculture to detailed stipulations on family matters, inheritance, and even the precise penalties for various crimes, Hammurabi's code sought to bring order to a complex society. It established concepts like an eye for an eye, a principle of retribution that, while seemingly harsh to modern ears, represented a significant step towards standardized justice, ensuring that punishments were proportionate and publicly known. This wasn't merely a set of royal decrees, it was a profound attempt to establish a truly just society, where disputes could be resolved according to a clear authoritative standard, fostering stability and predictability in daily life. Babylon was also a city of breathtaking architectural ambition and profound intellectual curiosity. Under later rulers, particularly Nebuchadnezzar II during the Neo-Babylonian Empire, 6th century BCE, the city was transformed into a veritable wonder of the ancient world. You might have heard whispers of the legendary Hanging Gardens of Babylon, a terraced paradise said to have been built to soothe the homesickness of a queen, a cascading marvel of lush greenery defying the arid climate. While its exact location and even its very existence remain subjects of scholarly debate, the legend itself speaks volumes about Babylon's reputation for extravagant beauty and engineering prowess, a testament to its builders' skill in creating artificial mountains of verdant splendor. Equally impressive was the Ishtar Gate, a magnificent entrance through the city's colossal walls, adorned with vibrant glazed bricks depicting fierce lions, majestic dragons, and powerful bulls. These creatures, rendered in brilliant blues, yellows, and whites, were not merely decorative. They were symbols of the city's patron deities, guardians against malevolent forces, and a vivid declaration of Babylon's power and divine protection. Walking beneath this gate through the processional way would have been an awe-inspiring experience, a sensory immersion into the heart of a civilization that understood the power of visual grandeur. The city was also punctuated by towering ziggurats, massive step temple towers that reached towards the heavens. These structures, often crowned with a shrine, were seen as sacred mountains, connecting the earthly realm of humanity with the celestial abode of the gods, acting as observatories where priests meticulously charted the stars. Indeed, the Babylonians were master astronomers, their observations of the celestial sphere far surpassing those of many contemporary cultures. They meticulously recorded the movements of planets, stars, and constellations, developing sophisticated mathematical systems to predict astronomical events. Their understanding of the cosmos was deeply intertwined with their religious beliefs, as they saw divine omens in the patterns of the night sky, using these observations to interpret the will of the gods and guide their decisions in matters of state and daily life. They laid foundational concepts for astrology and astronomy, influencing subsequent civilizations for centuries. Life in Babylon, therefore, was not merely about trade or conquest. It was profoundly shaped by a rich and intricate system of religious beliefs and unique customs. The Babylonians lived in a world where the divine was ever present, where gods and goddesses, each with their distinct domains and personalities, directly influenced every aspect of existence, from the annual flooding of the Euphrates, crucial for agriculture, to the outcomes of battles and the health of families. Everything was seen as a manifestation of divine will or displeasure. To maintain harmony with these powerful forces, to secure their blessings, and to avert their wrath, elaborate rituals and practices were not just important, they were absolutely essential. These customs were not casual activities. They were solemn obligations, expressions of deep reverence and communal responsibility, designed to ensure the prosperity, fertility, and protection of the entire city-state. They were pathways to securing May, the divine decrees or powers that underpinned civilization itself, ensuring order and abundance. It is within this unique cultural and spiritual landscape that we find ourselves tonight, ready to explore a particular custom that has fascinated and often perplexed historians for centuries. It is a practice so distinct, so deeply embedded in the very fabric of the Babylonian worldview, that it challenges our modern preconceptions about morality, commerce, and the sacred. This particular custom, linked directly to the worship of one of Babylon's most powerful deities, truly reveals much about their understanding of fertility, community obligation, and the profound interrelationship they perceived between human actions and divine favor. It compels us to step outside our own time and truly immerse ourselves in a world where ancient traditions held profound meaning and necessity. So let us gently drift into this ancient world, where the echoes of ziggurats still touch the sky, and where the customs of a bygone era whisper their forgotten truths. And at the very heart of this vibrant city, guiding its pulse and shaping its unique customs, stood the profound reverence for a deity unlike any other. Her name was Ishtar, and she was not merely a goddess, she was the embodiment of life's most powerful, sometimes contradictory, forces. To the people of ancient Babylon, Ishtar was the supreme goddess, a figure of immense power and captivating complexity. She presided over love and war, fertility and destruction, creation, and the cycle of life and death. Her influence touched every aspect of Babylonian existence, from the most intimate personal desires to the grandest military campaigns, from the bustling marketplace to the quiet corners of every home, truly shaping the very character of the civilization. You see, for the Babylonians, the divine was not distant or abstract. The gods and goddesses were intimately involved in the daily rhythms of their world, and Ishtar, above all others, was seen as the most present and dynamic force, a divine presence that truly walked among them. She was the morning star, Venus, blazing brightly in the heavens, signaling both new beginnings and the end of day. This celestial presence underscored her dual nature, as a bringer of light and passion, and as a harbinger of the fierce, unyielding power of battle. She was often called the Lady of Heaven and the Light of the World, titles that spoke to her pervasive influence and her role as a guiding force in both the celestial and earthly realms. Her very name resonated with power and authority, a constant whisper in the winds that swept across the Mesopotamian plains, reminding everyone of her all-encompassing dominion. As the goddess of love, Ishtar represented all forms of affection and desire, from the tender bonds of family to the intoxicating allure of romance. She was invoked in matters of the heart, in prayers for successful marriages, and in hopes for abundant progeny. Her domain stretched over human passion, ensuring the continuation of life through procreation, a vital concern in a world where survival was often precarious. This aspect of her divinity was deeply intertwined with the prosperity of the land itself. Just as human love led to new life, so too did Ishtar's favor ensure the fertility of the soil, the abundance of the harvests, and the health of the flocks. Without her blessing, the very foundations of their agricultural society would crumble into dust. The farmers, tending their fields along the banks of the mighty Euphrates River, knew that their very sustenance depended on the benevolent gaze of Ishtar. They believed that her life-giving essence permeated the earth, ensuring that the seeds they sowed would sprout into robust plants, yielding for the ancient Babylonians, as with most early civilizations, life was a constant dance with uncertainty, a precarious existence tethered to the whims of nature and, by extension, the unpredictable will of their gods. They dwelled in a land cradled between two great rivers, the Tigris and the Euphrates, whose annual floods were both the source of their prosperity and the harbinger of potential ruin. The very survival of their society, the continuation of their families, and the sustenance of their individual lives depended entirely on the land's bounty and the successful continuation of their lineage. They knew a world where a single failed harvest, perhaps due to insufficient rain or an overwhelming flood, could mean widespread starvation, a slow, agonizing decline for entire communities. A sudden pestilence among their flocks could decimate their wealth, leaving families destitute, and the inability to bear children meant the end of a family line, a profound tragedy in a culture that valued continuity and ancestral memory above all else. These fundamental aspects of existence, the rich black earth yielding its grain, the date palms heavy with sweet fruit, the healthy birth of calves and lambs, and most importantly, the robust cries of new human life, were not perceived as assured outcomes of nature, a simple given. Instead, they were understood as direct, tangible expressions of divine will, precious yet fragile gifts from the powerful deities who governed every facet of their world. The sun, while life-giving, could also scorch their crops to dust, transforming green fields into barren stretches. The river, while nourishing, could swell without warning and drown their villages and fields, sweeping away livelihoods. Such inherent unpredictability fostered a deep-seated belief that the gods were capricious, easily angered and often aloof, requiring constant attention, diligent observation, and careful appeasement. Therefore, maintaining divine favor was not merely a matter of abstract piety or personal devotion, but an urgent, practical necessity, for the collective survival and flourishing of their entire community, a matter of life and death for every man, woman, and child. This profound understanding gave rise to an intricate and complex web of religious beliefs and practices, all meticulously designed and performed with the singular aim of appeasing the gods and securing their benevolent blessings, particularly in the vital realm of fertility. The Babylonians held an unwavering conviction that if the gods were sufficiently pleased, they would bestow an abundance of life upon the land and its people. The fields would yield extraordinarily rich harvests of barley and wheat, enough to feed everyone for the coming year, filling their granaries to bursting. The date palms, those ancient resilient trees providing sustenance and shade for generations, would be heavy with their golden fruit, a sweet reward for their labor. The sheep and goats, essential for food, milk, and wool, would multiply rapidly, their pens overflowing with new life, their bleating a joyous sound. And most crucially, human families would flourish, ensuring the continuity of their clans, the strength of their city, and the very future of their civilization. Without children, their traditions would cease, their temples would stand empty, and their legacy would vanish into the unforgiving sands of time, a fate they feared above all others. Ishtar, as the great goddess, held a truly unique and paramount position within this vast Babylonian pantheon. Her duality was striking and central to her power. She was simultaneously the goddess of love, sensuality, and fertility, embodying the generative forces of the universe, and the fierce, formidable goddess of war and righteous battle, capable of immense destruction. This meant her domain over fertility in all its myriad forms was absolute and undeniable. She was the divine force that breathed life into the earth, causing it to become fruitful and yield its bounty. She was the one who enabled animals to breed and multiply, ensuring the continuation of species and the health of their herds. And most vitally, she was the power that allowed women to conceive, to carry a child to term, and to bring forth new precious life into the world, perpetuating the human line. Her favor, therefore, ensured not only agricultural prosperity, but also demographic vitality, while conversely, her displeasure could bring catastrophic famine, widespread barrenness among both fields and people, and an insidious desolation that would slowly choke the life out of their world, leaving only emptiness. Therefore, rituals dedicated to Ishtar were never simply acts of worship in the abstract sense. They were critical interventions, profound attempts by humanity to actively participate in the cosmic order, to gently yet firmly nudge the divine hand towards benevolence and continuous creation. These rituals were meticulously designed to mirror, in a sacred and symbolic way, the very processes of creation, procreation, and life itself. They were not just prayers spoken aloud, but profound embodied expressions of humanity's utter dependence on the divine for every breath and every harvest. The people believed that through these carefully observed ceremonies, through these acts of devotion and symbolic union, they could influence the fundamental cycles of nature, ensuring the inevitable return of spring, the nourishing and life-giving rains, and the fertile, receptive embrace of the land. It was a deeply understood reciprocal relationship. Humans offered their devotion, their sacrifices, and their specific ritual acts. And in return, the gods, particularly the powerful Ishtar, would grant the life-sustaining gifts of fertility and abundance, perpetuating the cycle of existence for all. The specific custom we are about to explore, then, must be understood entirely within this sacred and existential framework. It was emphatically not a casual or commercial transaction, nor was it an act driven by individual desire or personal gain. On the contrary, it was a solemn communal obligation, a profound collective effort undertaken to secure the very foundations of their existence and the future of their entire society. It represented a direct, heartfelt appeal to Ishtar, a profound and deeply meaningful offering made to guarantee the ceaseless fertility of their precious fields, the robust vitality of their essential animals, and the enduring future of their beloved people. This was a society that saw the divine manifest in every sprouting seed, every new birth, and every precious drop of water that nourished their arid lands. For them, a ritual of this nature was as absolutely essential as planting seeds in the spring or diligently tending their flocks throughout the year. It was not merely a tradition or a quaint practice, but a core component of their annual cycle, a spiritual necessity without which they genuinely felt their world would surely wither and die. The practice, therefore, stood as a powerful testament to their unwavering faith in the boundless power of the gods to sustain life, and their own critical role in facilitating that divine generosity through specific, prescribed, and deeply reverent actions. It was an ancient prayer, enacted not with words alone, but with the very essence of human life, seeking to harmonize with the powerful generative forces of creation that flowed directly from the heart of their revered and formidable goddess Ishtar, ensuring the very breath of their civilization continued. Given this profound reverence for fertility and the goddess Ishtar, it is perhaps less surprising, though still striking, to encounter the observations of an ancient visitor to Babylon, a man whose name echoes through history as the father of it, the Greek historian Herodotus. He was a curious and meticulous traveler, born in Halicarnassus in the 5th century BC, a time when the echoes of the Persian Wars were still fresh, and the Greek world was expanding its understanding of the vast civilizations to its east. Herodotus journeyed extensively, driven by an insatiable desire to record the customs, histories, and marvels of the peoples he encountered. He traveled to Egypt, Scythia, and indeed to the heart of Mesopotamia, to the grand city of Babylon, a place that even then, though past its zenith, still held an undeniable aura of ancient power and unique traditions. It was in this city, amidst the towering ziggurats and the bustling markets, that Herodotus observed a custom so peculiar to his Greek sensibilities that he felt compelled to document it in his monumental work, the Histories. He wrote of a practice connected directly to the worship of Ishtar, whom he, like many Greeks, equated with their own goddess of love and fertility, Aphrodite. He described a specific ritual that, to the modern ear, might sound utterly confounding, yet within the context of Babylonian belief, held a deep, sacred meaning. Herodotus recounted that every woman in Babylon, at least once in her life, was required to go to the temple of Melita, his Greek name for Ishtar, and sit there until a stranger approached her, threw a silver coin into her lap, and led her outside the sacred precinct. The coin, he noted, could be of any value, but once thrown, the woman could not refuse. She had to accept it, for it was considered consecrated to the goddess. The stranger would then utter a specific phrase, "I invoke the goddess Mylitta for you," before taking her away for a brief, intimate encounter. Once this act was completed, Herodotus explained, the woman was considered purified and free to return to her home. She had fulfilled her sacred duty to the goddess and her community. Imagine for a moment the scene within the temple courtyard, as Herodotus might have witnessed it. You stand at the edge of the great square, perhaps feeling the warmth of the sun on your face, the ancient stones beneath your feet. The air hums with a low murmur of voices, a mix of expectation and quiet patience. Around you, women from all walks of life would be seated, some on mats, others perhaps on the bare ground, their eyes fixed on the path ahead, waiting for the moment when a stranger would choose them. Their garments might have varied from the simple, undyed wool of a farmer's wife to the finely woven, brightly colored linen of a merchant's spouse, perhaps adorned with intricate patterns. You would see women of all ages, though Herodotus specifically mentioned that the most beautiful ones were quickly chosen, while those less favored might sit for a considerable length of time, sometimes for years, before their turn came. The patience required must have been immense, a testament to the deep-seated belief in the ritual's necessity. The wealthy, Herodotus observed, would arrive in covered carriages, accompanied by a retinue of servants, and would depart quickly, their sacred duty fulfilled. But for the less fortunate, the wait could be long, a silent vigil under the Babylonian sun, perhaps the scent of incense lingering in the air, mixed with the faint, earthy smell of the temple grounds and the distant aroma of baking bread from the city beyond its walls. The atmosphere, despite what a modern mind might presume, was not one of commerce or casual interaction. It was permeated by a profound sense of religious solemnity. The coin, once thrown, was not a payment for services rendered to the individual, but an offering dedicated directly to the goddess Ishtar. It was a tangible link between the human act and the divine favor it was meant to invoke. The brief ritualistic encounter that followed was not merely physical, it was imbued with symbolic meaning, a direct participation in the generative power of the goddess herself, a microcosmic reflection of the fertility that sustained the entire land and its people. Herodotus, ever the keen observer, noted that once a woman had completed this ritual, no matter how brief or perfunctory the interaction might have been, she could not be enticed by any amount of money to repeat the act. This detail is crucial. It underscores the one-time, obligatory, and purely religious nature of the custom. It was not a profession or a choice for personal gain. It was a religious rite, a duty owed to the divine, a communal act of faith performed by individuals for the collective good. The women were not prostitutes in the sense of engaging in a commercial enterprise for profit. They were participants in a sacred drama, fulfilling a societal and spiritual obligation that was deeply woven into the fabric of Babylonian life. The temple itself would have been a vibrant hub, not just for this particular ritual, but for a multitude of religious, social, and even economic activities. The great ziggurat, which Herodotus also described, would have towered nearby, its terraces reaching towards the heavens, a physical manifestation of the link between the earthly and the divine. Priests and priestesses would have moved through the complex, attending to various rites and duties. Worshippers would have brought offerings, sought blessings, and participated in festivals that celebrated the cycles of nature and the power of the gods. The air might have been thick with the chanting of prayers, the flickering light of oil lamps in shaded shrines, and the quiet footsteps of those seeking solace or fulfillment. For the women participating in this custom, their role was not one of shame, but of service. They were conduits, in a sense, for the divine blessings of fertility to flow into the community. Their act was a sacrifice, a personal offering made for the well-being of their families and the prosperity of their city. It was an affirmation of their belief in Ishtar's power to grant bountiful harvests, to ensure healthy births, and to sustain life in all its forms. The very act of sitting, waiting, and then participating in the ritual was a public declaration of faith, a visible commitment to the foundational principles of their cosmology. Herodotus's account, while offering a rare glimpse into this ancient practice, must also be viewed through the lens of his own cultural background. As a Greek, he was observing a foreign custom that likely challenged his preconceived notions of morality and social order. He presented it as a factual observation, perhaps without fully grasping the intricate theological underpinnings that made it not merely acceptable, but sacred to the Babylonians. His fascination with the exotic and the unusual led him to record it, preserving for us a window into a world where the boundaries between the sacred and the seemingly profane were drawn in ways that modern minds often struggle to comprehend. This custom, as described by Herodotus, stands as a stark reminder of how vastly different human societies have interpreted the divine, sexuality, and communal responsibility throughout history. It was a practice born from a deep connection to the land, to the rhythms of nature, and to the powerful, often inscrutable, will of the gods who were believed to govern all aspects of existence. It was a world where fertility was not just a biological process, but a sacred principle, and where human actions, even those that appear shocking to us today, were seen as vital components in maintaining the delicate balance between the human realm and the divine. The women who sat in the temple of Ishtar were not selling themselves. They were offering themselves in a very specific, ritualized manner to ensure the continued blessing of life upon their ancient, vibrant civilization. Their acts, viewed in their proper context, were not scandalous, but deeply devotional, a testament to a worldview where the body, the spirit, and the community were inextricably linked in a complex web of divine obligation and earthly prosperity. This profound difference in perspective is what makes Herodotus's account so compelling and perhaps so challenging for us to fully grasp, even millennia later. This seemingly unusual practice, as described by Herodotus, was not, in the eyes of the Babylonians, an act of commerce or personal gain. It was, instead, a profound religious obligation, a sacred duty undertaken for the prosperity and well-being of the entire community. To understand it fully, you must shed the modern lens through which we often view such interactions and step into the ancient world, where the boundaries between the sacred and the mundane were far more fluid, and life itself was seen as intimately connected to divine will and cosmic order. In a civilization utterly dependent on the fickle nature of its rivers, the abundance of its harvests, and the continuation of its lineage, the goddess Ishtar held immense, even terrifying power. She was not merely a deity among many, she embodied the very life force of the earth and the heavens. As the goddess of love, passion, and fertility, her dominion extended to the overflowing waters of the Tigris and Euphrates, which brought life to the sun-baked plains. She governed the sprouting of the grain, the multiplication of the flocks, and the blessing of children within families. But Ishtar also held sway over war and destruction, capable of withdrawing her favor and plunging the land into barrenness, famine, and despair. Her benevolence was, therefore, not just desired, but absolutely essential for the survival of Babylon itself. The ritual service performed by the women in her temple was a direct offering to her, a deeply symbolic and communal act intended to invoke and ensure this divine blessing. It was a plea, a supplication, and a form of worship, all rolled into one. Each woman who came to the temple of Melita, as Ishtar was also known, did so not out of personal desire for wealth or pleasure, but out of a profound sense of communal responsibility and spiritual necessity. The small silver coin, which Herodotus described as being thrown into her lap, was not a payment for a service rendered in a commercial sense, nor was it intended for the woman's personal enrichment. On the contrary, it was considered a sacred offering, a token dedicated directly to the goddess herself. This money, once received, would often be given to the temple, becoming part of its sacred treasury. This treasury supported the priests and priestesses, maintained the magnificent temple grounds, and funded the numerous charitable and administrative activities that temples often undertook, acting as vital centers of community life and welfare. The woman was merely the conduit, the vessel through whom this sacred transaction with the divine took place, ensuring the flow of blessings back to her people. The act itself was a form of ritual intercourse, a symbolic reenactment of the divine union between the gods and goddesses, which was believed to bring about fertility in the natural world. In the Babylonian worldview, human actions, especially those performed with sacred intent and within a consecrated space, could mirror and thereby influence the grand cosmic processes. By participating in this ritual, the women were not seen as degrading themselves. Rather, they were, in their profound belief system, elevating themselves to become living channels for the goddess's potent, life-giving power. They were actively contributing to the maintenance of the cosmic order, ensuring that the rivers would continue to flood, depositing rich, life-sustaining silt onto the fields, that the date palms would continue to bear their sweet fruit, that the animals would reproduce abundantly, and, crucially, that the people of Babylon would continue to thrive, their numbers growing, their future secured. It was a solemn occasion, imbued with deep spiritual significance, often accompanied by quiet contemplation and silent prayer. The atmosphere within the temple precinct, despite the presence of many people, was one of reverence, quiet expectation, and communal hope. The women sat patiently, sometimes for days, amidst the hushed murmur of other worshippers and the distant sounds of temple rituals, waiting for a stranger to approach. This stranger was not simply a random individual. He was, in that moment, a participant in the sacred drama, perhaps even seen as a temporary vessel for the divine masculine principle, chosen by fate or the goddess's subtle influence. The interaction itself, brief as it was, carried the immense weight of cosmic significance, a fleeting moment where the human and the divine touched, all for the sake of fertility and the continuation of life. The societal pressure to perform this ritual was immense, not because of a coercive or oppressive system in the modern sense, but because it was understood as a fundamental pillar of their collective existence, a non-negotiable duty to the gods and to the very fabric of their society. To refuse this obligation would be to endanger the entire community, to risk the wrath, or perhaps even worse, the profound indifference of Ishtar, and to jeopardize the very harvest upon which their lives depended. It was a duty woven seamlessly into the fabric of their faith, a testament to their deep-seated belief that human actions, when performed with sacred intent, could directly influence the grand forces of the universe and secure the future of their beloved city, protecting it from the ever-present threats of drought, barrenness, and decline. This perspective is absolutely crucial for understanding ancient Babylon. They lived in a world where every aspect of life was imbued with spiritual meaning. The rising of the sun, the predictable yet vital flow of the Euphrates and Tigris rivers, the joyous birth of a child, the success of a vital crop, all were seen as direct manifestations of divine will and interconnected forces. The ritual at the Temple of Ishtar was a way for humanity to actively participate in this divine cycle, to contribute meaningfully to the cosmic order, and to ensure the continuous flow of blessings from the gods to their earthly realm. It was not a private, shameful transaction, but a public, communal act of devotion, visible and understood by all, a cornerstone of their religious identity, and a testament to their unique and intricate worldview. This sacred duty, however, did not occur in isolation within the grand city of Babylon. The Temple of Ishtar, known as Eanna, meaning House of Heaven, was far more than simply the site for this particular ritual custom. It stood as the throbbing heart of the entire city, a monumental testament to Babylonian faith and ingenuity, a place where the spiritual, social, and economic threads of daily life were intricately woven together, forming the very fabric of their existence. Its presence was pervasive, its influence undeniable, permeating every aspect of the lives of those who dwelt within the mighty walls of Babylon. Imagine, if you will, approaching this colossal structure, rising majestically from the flat Mesopotamian plain. Its ziggurat, a colossal step tower, likely dominated the skyline for miles around, a man-made mountain reaching towards the heavens, a beacon visible to all who approached the city. The sun would glint off its glazed brick facade, perhaps in shades of vibrant blue or gold, a testament to the wealth and artistic prowess of the Babylonian people. As you drew closer, you would pass through monumental gates, perhaps adorned with reliefs of mythical beasts or protective deities, stepping from the bustling streets into a realm of profound sanctity and ordered activity. The lower courtyards and administrative buildings, sprawling across a vast expanse, would have been perpetually alive with a constant, vibrant energy from the first light of dawn until the last embers of twilight. Here, the air would have been a rich tapestry of sensory experiences. You might have heard the soft, reverent murmur of prayers from devout worshipers, their voices blending into a continuous hum, punctuated by the rhythmic chants of priests performing elaborate daily rites and purification ceremonies. the distant clang of tools from dedicated workshops, where master artisans meticulously crafted intricate cult statues, shimmering golden vessels, and delicate ritual implements, would have resonated through the stone corridors. The sweet, heavy scent of burning incense offered to appease the gods would have mingled with the earthy aroma of baked clay tablets and the subtle fragrance of fresh offerings of bread, fruits, and flowers. Perhaps you would also discern the faint metallic tang of the great bronze doors gleaming under the intense Babylonian sun. The temple complex was not merely a place of worship. It was, in essence, a self-sustaining microcosm of Babylonian society, a central node around which much of the city's life revolved. Within its extensive and carefully managed walls, a vast network of temple officials, administrators, and scribes meticulously recorded every transaction on countless clay tablets. These archives were not simply records of religious offerings. They documented the management of immense storehouses filled to overflowing with grain, precious oils, fine textiles, and herds of livestock, the tithes and agricultural offerings brought by the faithful from across the fertile lands controlled by Babylon. These vast resources were then carefully managed and redistributed, supporting the extensive temple staff, the numerous priests and priestesses, and even providing for the poor, the widowed, and the needy within the wider community. In many ways, the temple functioned as a sophisticated central bank, a major employer for thousands of individuals, and a significant landholder, wielding immense economic influence over the city's entire agricultural output and trade networks. Its granaries ensured food security. Its scribal schools trained the next generation of literate elite, and its workshops produced goods that were both sacred and economically valuable. Beyond its profound economic role, the temple served as an indispensable social nexus, a natural gathering place for all segments of society. It was the primary venue for elaborate festivals and grand public celebrations dedicated not only to Ishtar, but also to the multitude of other gods in the vast and complex Babylonian pantheon, such as Marduk, the city's patron deity, and Shamash, the sun god of justice. During these occasions, the entire city would converge upon the temple courtyards, transforming them into vibrant spectacles of communal devotion and shared joy. The air would reverberate with the sounds of traditional music, the rhythmic clapping of dancers, and the shared excitement of collective worship. Families would come together to offer personal sacrifices, to seek divine counsel from oracles and diviners, or simply to experience the comforting and awe-inspiring presence of their deities. It was a place where social bonds were constantly reinforced, where important news and decrees were publicly announced, where disputes might be mediated, and where the collective identity and shared values of Babylon were deeply instilled and celebrated. For many, it was the focal point of their week, their month, their year, connecting them to their ancestors and to the divine. Even the specific ritual described by Herodotus, while indeed unique and striking to an outsider's perspective, was seamlessly integrated into this broader, intricate tapestry of temple life. It was not an isolated act of commerce or personal desire, but one thread among many, contributing to the overall spiritual well-being, fertility, and prosperity that the temple, through its various sacred activities, was believed to ensure for the entire community. The vibrant and dynamic presence of the goddess Ishtar herself was felt everywhere within these sacred precincts. Her benevolent yet powerful influence invoked and honored through every prayer, every offering, every communal act, and every individual's participation. The temple provided the sacred space, the established framework, and the overarching religious context for such a custom to exist, to be understood, and to be performed as a solemn duty rather than a casual transaction. Thus, the Temple of Ishtar was a truly living entity, a dynamic, pulsating center that encapsulated the very essence of ancient Babylon, defining its character and sustaining its people. It was a place where the divine and the mundane intertwined inextricably, where sacred rituals were not merely symbolic gestures, but active conduits believed to ensure the city's favor with the gods, and where the community found its rhythm, its sustenance, its education, and its shared purpose. It stood as a constant, imposing reminder that for the Babylonians, life was not compartmentalized into separate spheres of religion, society, or economy. These were all inseparable elements, all revolving around the majestic and awe-inspiring presence of their deities, especially the fierce, powerful, and fertile Ishtar. This grand institution was the undisputed beating heart of their world, a place of profound and enduring significance that shaped not only their spiritual lives, but their very existence, anchoring their past, dictating their present, and guiding their future under the watchful eyes of the gods. This custom, which might appear bewildering or even disquieting through the lens of modern understanding, was, in truth, deeply and intrinsically woven into the very fabric of ancient Babylonian society. It was not perceived with shame, nor was it viewed as an act of degradation in any form. Instead, for the people of Babylon, it held profound significance as a sacred duty, a public and utterly essential act of devotion to the great goddess Ishtar, who embodied both fierce love and the generative power of the earth. This ritual was as natural and accepted a part of their existence as the annual life-giving flooding of the mighty Euphrates River, the constant vibrant hum of activity in their bustling markets filled with exotic goods, or the daily murmured prayers offered in the colossal shadows of their towering ziggurats reaching for the heavens. It represented a fundamental pillar of their collective worldview, embodying a sophisticated and profound understanding of the intricate interconnectedness between human action, divine will, and the very rhythms of the natural world that sustained their fertile lands and thriving cities. The women who participated in this solemn rite were never outcast or stigmatized within their community, as one might erroneously assume from a later historical perspective. On the contrary, their involvement was seen as the fulfillment of a vital communal obligation, a service that ensured the continued prosperity and well-being of the entire city-state. Their families would not have regarded their participation as dishonorable in any conceivable sense. Indeed, it was a source of quiet pride, an act that contributed directly to the collective good, a necessary step to secure the fertility of the land, the abundance of its precious harvests, and the enduring vitality of its people. The term sacred service or sacred offering comes far closer to capturing its true ancient meaning than the often misleading modern translation of sacred prostitution, which carries with it with connotations that obscure its profound religious purpose. This was not a commercial transaction driven by personal gain or financial profit, nor was it a form of casual leisure or entertainment. It was, at its heart, a deeply religious exchange, a symbolic offering of human fertility presented directly to the divine, intended to invoke a reciprocal blessing of boundless abundance from Ishtar herself, the revered patroness of life, love, and the very continuation of their world. The act was a solemn pact, a human side of a cosmic bargain. Imagine the vibrant atmosphere within the temple courtyards of Babylon, particularly those dedicated to Ishtar. These were not silent, solemn spaces reserved solely for hushed worship and isolated contemplation. They were bustling, teeming centers of life, echoing with the sounds of daily commerce and fervent prayer. Here, merchants might conduct their haggling, their voices rising and falling over the clatter of goods, while scribes would diligently record offerings and transactions on clay tablets. Priests would conduct elaborate daily ceremonies that punctuated the flow of time, marked by the burning of incense and the chanting of ancient hymns. Amidst this rich and diverse tapestry of daily life, the ritual for Ishtar unfolded openly, a recognized and fully integrated part of both civic and religious existence. The act itself was understood as a profound living prayer, a tangible plea for the parched land to yield its bounty, for the mighty rivers to continue their life-giving flow through the irrigation canals, for the essential crops to ripen fully under the hot sun, and for the city to perpetually thrive under the watchful eye of divine favor. It was a direct, palpable appeal to Ishtar, whom they believed was the ultimate source of all creation, growth, and abundance in their world, the very force that kept chaos at bay and allowed civilization to flourish. This deeply embedded societal acceptance reveals a fundamental distinction in the moral and cosmological framework that underpinned ancient Babylon, a worldview vastly different from many that followed. Their ethical understanding was not primarily based on individualistic notions of sin or personal purity, concepts that would become central in later Abrahamic traditions. Instead, it was intrinsically tied to the grand cosmic order and the overarching, often inscrutable, will of the gods. The Babylonians held a firm conviction that human actions, particularly those performed within a sacred, ritualistic context, possessed the power to directly influence the natural world, to ensure its harmonious continuation, and to avert disaster. The idea of individual shame or personal transgression, as understood in later Western thought, was simply not the primary lens through which this specific act was viewed. The paramount focus was always on the community, on its unbroken continuity, and on the vital necessity of maintaining divine favor for the survival and flourishing of their entire civilization, a collective responsibility shared by all. For the Babylonians, the human body, and more specifically female fertility, was not something to be concealed or considered inherently impure in this ritualistic context as it might be in some other belief systems. Quite the opposite. It was regarded as a powerful and sacred conduit for divine blessings, a living vessel through which the very life-giving energies of the goddess herself could flow into the tangible world, fertilizing both land and people, ensuring the continuation of the lineage and the prosperity of the fields. This ritual, therefore, was a practical, deeply spiritual and publicly affirmed expression of their cosmological understanding. It served as a collective and powerful affirmation of their profound dependence on Ishtar and their collective willingness to offer themselves in a symbolic and communal manner for the greater good of all. It powerfully underscores how profoundly different cultures construct their understanding of purity, honor, and sacredness across time and space. For the Babylonians, this act was considered pure precisely because it served the divine purpose, and through that divine purpose, it served the very lifeblood and enduring prosperity of their thriving society. It was a testament to a world where the sacred permeated every single aspect of existence, where the mundane was often infused with the divine, and where human actions were inextricably linked to the grand overarching cycles of nature and the immutable will of the heavens. This deep integration meant that the societal fabric itself was designed to accommodate and even venerate such practices, reflecting a collective consciousness that prioritized cosmic harmony and the appeasement of the gods above all else, ensuring a delicate balance between humanity and the powerful forces that governed their world. This ritual, as remarkable as it may seem to modern sensibilities, was deeply integrated into the fabric of Babylonian life, a testament to a society with a unique understanding of the divine and the human. To truly grasp its place, it is essential to understand the broader position of women in this ancient civilization, for they were not merely passive participants in a single custom, but active members of a complex society that afforded them certain rights and responsibilities often surprising for their time. The common image of ancient women being entirely subservient and without agency often overlooks the profound and intricate nuances present in civilizations like Babylon, where the legal and social landscape painted a more intricate and sophisticated picture than typically imagined. In ancient Babylon, women held a legal status that, while certainly not equal to men's in all respects, was remarkably progressive when compared to many other cultures of the ancient world. They were not considered mere chattel, nor were they entirely confined to the domestic sphere. Babylonian law, meticulously codified in texts like the famous Code of Hammurabi, a monumental legal document from the 18th century BCE that listed nearly 300 laws governing daily life across all social strata, granted women the fundamental ability to own property independently. This was a foundational right that empowered them significantly. A woman could inherit land, houses, and goods from her parents or her husband. This meant she could manage her own estates, engage in business transactions, and even initiate lawsuits in court. Imagine a woman in the second millennium BCE standing before judges, eloquently defending her rights or pursuing a claim over property or a debt. This was not an anomaly. It was a recognized legal avenue in Babylon. She could buy and sell, lease property, and even lend money, entering into formal agreements sealed with her own unique cylinder seal, a small engraved cylinder rolled onto wet clay as a personal signature. These numerous legal instruments, meticulously preserved on clay tablets and discovered by archaeologists, provide tangible and undeniable evidence of their active economic participation and legal standing. Furthermore, a Babylonian woman could enter into contracts, engage in trade, and even run her own businesses. There are records of women acting as merchants, tavern keepers, and even scribes, though the latter was far less common and typically reserved for elite women or priestesses due to the specialized education required. This economic autonomy provided a foundation for a significant degree of personal agency and influence beyond the immediate confines of the household. Marriage, too, was viewed as a contractual agreement, a formal partnership, rather than merely a transfer of property from one male head of household to another. While arranged marriages were the norm, primarily designed to solidify family alliances and ensure economic stability for both parties, a woman possessed the explicit right to divorce under specific circumstances, such as desertion by her husband, his failure to provide for her, or severe mistreatment, including physical abuse. If a divorce occurred, she was legally entitled to the return of her dowry, which she had brought into the marriage, and in some cases, custody of her children, particularly if they were young. This legal framework reflects a society that, while undeniably patriarchal in its overall structure, recognized women's individual worth and provided robust avenues for their protection and economic survival, offering a degree of security and legal recourse that was exceptionally rare in the ancient world. Beyond legal rights, women played crucial and respected roles in the religious life of Babylon. Many served as priestesses in various temples dedicated to different deities, holding positions of significant influence and prestige within the religious hierarchy. These roles were not just ceremonial. Priestesses often managed vast temple estates, supervised intricate religious rituals, and acted as intermediaries between the human and divine realms, interpreting omens and performing sacred duties crucial to the city's spiritual well-being. The Temple of Ishtar, in particular, was home to numerous female cult functionaries, including the Naditu priestesses, who were typically highly educated, often literate, and came from wealthy or noble families. These women lived in special cloistered communities within the temple complex, dedicated to the lifelong service of the goddess, and wielded considerable social and economic power, managing their own property and sometimes even engaging in commercial activities. Their dedication was a lifelong commitment, and they were often forbidden from having children, ensuring their focus remained entirely on their sacred duties and the temple's prosperity. At the heart of Babylonian society was the family, and within it, the woman was the primary manager of the household. She was responsible for raising children, overseeing the preparation of food, managing servants if the family was wealthy, and handling all daily domestic affairs with skill and diligence. This was a deeply respected and essential role, ensuring the continuity and well-being of the family unit, which was the fundamental building block of Babylonian society. While her primary sphere was often the home, her influence extended profoundly to the upbringing of future generations, instilling cultural values, religious traditions, and practical skills necessary for survival and prosperity. Her contributions were vital for the maintenance of social order and the flourishing of her lineage. However, it is also crucial to acknowledge the inherent limitations that existed within this otherwise progressive framework. Babylonian society remained fundamentally patriarchal, with men generally holding the positions of ultimate authority in both public and private life. A woman's status, while legally defined, was still often intrinsically tied to her father or husband. Her freedom of movement might be restricted, particularly for unmarried women, and her reputation was paramount, especially concerning her chastity before marriage and fidelity within it, as these were crucial for maintaining family honor and ensuring legitimate heirs. The head of the household was invariably male, and a woman's legal capacity, while extensive, was still often exercised within the broader framework of male authority. For instance, while she could own property, a married woman typically needed her husband's consent for major financial transactions or to initiate certain legal proceedings that might significantly impact the family's shared assets. The custom at the Temple of Ishtar, therefore, must be seen within this broader, nuanced context. It was not an isolated act of subjugation, nor was it a symbol of absolute liberation. Instead, it was a ritual deeply embedded in a society that granted women significant legal and economic rights, offering them opportunities for agency and influence that were exceptionally rare for their era. This same society also placed them within a defined social hierarchy with clear expectations regarding their roles and contributions to the community's spiritual and material well-being. It was a society that balanced individual agency with collective responsibility, where even a seemingly unusual custom served a perceived greater good, understood and accepted by both men and women as a vital part of their shared existence in the powerful and intricate city of Babylon, a city that always sought to maintain cosmic harmony through human action, believing that every societal role contributed to the delicate balance of their world. Like the shifting sands of the desert, even the most deeply ingrained customs and beliefs of ancient civilizations were destined to change, to erode, or to be transformed by the inexorable march of history. The sacred custom you have learned about, so integral to the life and spiritual well-being of ancient Babylon, was no exception. Its very eventual fading was not an abrupt cessation, but a slow, deliberate process, mirroring the decline and transformation of Babylon itself as it came under the sway of new empires and encountered vastly different worldviews and understandings of the divine. The first profound shift occurred in 539 BC, when Babylon, the jewel of Mesopotamia, fell to the mighty Achaemenid Persian Empire, led by its visionary founder. As the great empires rose and fell, and new beliefs spread across the ancient lands, the vibrant customs of Babylon, including this most unique ritual, slowly receded into the mists of time. The temples, once bustling with life and devotion, eventually crumbled into dust, their sacred practices replaced by the tenets of new faiths, often bringing with them very different interpretations of the divine, of human conduct, and of the role of the individual within the community. Yet, even centuries later, the account of Herodotus, a fleeting glimpse into a world long gone, continues to echo through history, a persistent whisper that challenges our modern understanding of morality, spirituality, and societal structure in profound and often startling ways, prompting us to reconsider our assumptions about human nature and societal evolution. When we first encounter such a tale, our contemporary minds, shaped by centuries of evolving norms and values, might instinctively recoil or attempt to categorize it within familiar frameworks. We might be tempted to label it with terms that carry powerful modern connotations, such as prostitution or immorality, concepts deeply rooted in our own historical, cultural, and religious traditions, which have often framed such interactions very differently. But to do so would be to fundamentally misunderstand the core of what this custom represented to the Babylonians themselves. It was not, in their worldview, a commercial transaction driven by personal gain or fleeting desire, nor was it viewed as an act of degradation. Rather, it was a profound communal obligation, a sacred duty woven intrinsically into the very fabric of their religious and social life. The purpose was never individual pleasure or personal profit, but rather the collective well-being of the entire city-state and the continued essential favor of the gods, without which their world could not endure. For the people of ancient Babylon, life was often precarious. The fertility of their land, the abundance of their harvests, and the health of their families were not guaranteed certainties, but precious, often fragile gifts. Famine, devastating floods, widespread disease, and the unpredictable, often overwhelming forces of nature were constant, terrifying threats. In such a world, the concept of fertility was paramount, not just for human reproduction, but for the very survival of the civilization. These blessings were seen as direct emanations from the divine, particularly from Ishtar, the powerful goddess of love, fertility, and war, whose benevolent influence was absolutely essential for prosperity. To ensure these blessings, to maintain a harmonious, reciprocal relationship with the divine, required active human participation. This ritual, therefore, strange as it may seem to us now, was not an arbitrary custom, but a vital component of that cosmic relationship. It was a direct physical manifestation of their collective devotion, a deep-seated spiritual act intended to ensure the continued flow of life, abundance, and prosperity for the entire community, year after year. This perspective reveals a society remarkably different from our own, where the line between the sacred and the mundane was almost imperceptible. Every aspect of life, from the planting of crops in the Fertile Crescent to the construction of their monumental ziggurats, was imbued with deep religious significance. The temple, especially the grand temple of Ishtar, was far more than merely a place of worship. It was the spiritual heart of the city, a vibrant hub of economic activity, a site for legal proceedings, and a central location for social gatherings and festivals. Within its hallowed grounds, acts that might appear purely secular to us were, for the Babylonians, deeply spiritual expressions. The joining of man and woman, viewed through the all-encompassing lens of divine fertility, became a potent symbol, a sacred reenactment of the creative powers of the cosmos. It was a tangible way of reinforcing the vital bond between the human realm and the divine, ensuring that the life-giving forces of the universe continued to flow through their world, sustaining their very existence and ensuring the cyclical renewal of life across their fertile plains. This view highlights the vast differences in how ancient civilizations conceived of sexuality, not always as a private matter or a potential source of sin, as it would become in later Abrahamic traditions, but often as a sacred force, a powerful conduit for divine energy, especially when linked directly to the fundamental concept of fertility. The women who participated in this ritual were not, in the eyes of their society, viewed as outcast or debased. On the contrary, they were performing a service considered utterly essential for the survival and prosperity of their people. They were acting as vital intermediaries, connecting the human collective directly to the divine source of life, a role of profound spiritual importance within their social fabric. Their willing devotion and participation were seen as a source of immense communal strength and spiritual security for the entire city, a testament to their commitment to the well-being of their shared world. It is also crucial to remember the source of our knowledge about this custom. Herodotus, a Greek historian traveling through a foreign land. His account, while invaluable, is that of an outsider, observing a culture with different lenses and potentially interpreting through his own Hellenic framework. We see the custom through his eyes, filtered by his understanding, which might not have fully grasped every nuance of Babylonian religious thought. Yet, even with this filter, his descriptions provide us with a rare and captivating window into a world that might otherwise remain entirely unknown to us. His observations, however imperfect and perhaps colored by his own cultural lens, nonetheless compel us to confront the undeniable fact that human societies across the globe have developed extraordinarily diverse and often bewildering ways of living, believing, and interacting with the spiritual realm. As we reflect upon this custom, it serves as a powerful reminder of the immense diversity of human experience across the vast expanse of time. It forces us to shed our ethnocentric biases, our tendency to view the past through the narrow lens of our present-day norms, and to approach history with a profound sense of curiosity and an open mind. It encourages us to seek to understand cultures on their own terms, within their unique historical and environmental contexts, rather than hastily judging them by our own contemporary standards of morality or progress. It invites us to appreciate the ingenuity, the profound complexity, and sometimes the stark, uncompromising practicality of ancient belief systems, which crafted elaborate rituals and societal structures precisely to make sense of their often challenging world and to secure their precarious future. The story of ancient Babylon, with its sophisticated laws, its monumental ziggurats reaching for the heavens, and its profoundly unique customs, is not merely a collection of dusty facts from a distant past. It is a vibrant, living testament to the enduring human quest for meaning, for connection to the divine, and for the promise of continued life amidst the inherent uncertainties of existence. And so, as the echoes of ancient Babylon slowly fade into the quiet of this moment, we are left with a deeper understanding, not just of a single peculiar custom, but of the vast, intricate tapestry of human history. We see how different societies, separated by millennia and vast distances, have grappled with the fundamental questions of existence, the nature of the divine, the purpose of humanity, the challenges of survival, and the profound need for connection. We witness how they have sought to appease their gods, ensure their collective well-being, and find their place within the grand, often mysterious, design of the cosmos. The story of the Temple of Ishtar is a luminous, compelling thread in that tapestry, a surprising and deeply illuminating detail that invites us to look beyond the obvious, to listen closely to the subtle whispers of forgotten ages, and to recognize the profound and sometimes unsettling beauty in the myriad, often unexpected ways humanity has chosen to live, to believe, and to thrive. Let these thoughts drift gently through your mind as the ancient world recedes into the peaceful realm of dreams, carrying with it the lessons of a past that continues to resonate.